Hello internet, and today is going to be another one of those book opinions, those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book. And today's book is going to be The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This was a book that I had a lot of thoughts and feelings about. This is going to be one of those videos where I'm not quite sure if I'm reading more into the book in this situation than the author originally intended, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's fun. And what is a book if you're not learning at least something from it, even if it is meant to purely entertain you? This book opinion is going to be broken up a little differently. I'm going to give my objective opinions, and then I'm going to talk about each character, what I liked overall, subjectively, in my own analysis. So objectively, this book is a very fun time. It's a very fun read. It's more of a character driven book than a plot driven book. You are meant to fall in love with the characters of this book, with the interactions that they have, the conversations that they have, their emotions, their reactions to each other, their reactions to their situation, than you are to actually dissect the situation, because the situation is kind of like up there in believability. You kind of have to suspend your disbelief for how they get on this crazy adventure, but if you're just focused on the characters, you're gonna love the whole thing. So this book is about this kid named Monty. He is a lord of an English estate or something, you know, normal lord stuff, and he wants to go on a tour of the continent, which was a thing you used to do back in the day if you were rich and you had money and you were a lord. And he wants to take his best friend Percy. So him and Percy have this whole summer trip to go on, and Monty really is excited about this trip, but he's even more excited because he gets to spend his time with Percy, who he's secretly in love with, and he has to drag around his sister because, you know, they're gonna drop her off at finishing school. He doesn't really want his sister along on his little love cruise, but they have to take her anyway, so she has to go. On this journey, some shenanigans happen, and the tour of the continent becomes a little more dangerous and a little more adventurous. So now we're going to talk about characters, which is really why I'm making this video. So one of the things I really loved about this book was the three different characters, and seeing these three different characters in a world in which they were not loved for their best qualities, or for qualities that any other person would think them amazing people for, but because of the society they lived in, they were thought down about it. Even though in any other case, in any other situation, they would be praised, but there's just one little thing that doesn't fit in about them that makes them ostracized from society, even though that one little thing is actually pretty commendable. So we're going to start off with Monty. Monty is our bisexual main character, and we follow the whole story through his point of view. Now, Monty is a lord, so those are things that people should love him for. He's a lord, he's rich, he's handsome, he can have a whole great conversation, right? He is just such an outgoing, charismatic person that, you know, he's that kid where you just meet him and you can't help but love him. Even if you don't like the kid, you can't help but be like, that's a cool kid. That's Monty, right? But there's things that make him a bad person. One, he's bisexual. So not many people are happy that he's sleeping around with other boys. Two, he's short, which apparently is very, like, it's a sin if you're a guy and you're short, okay? It's just a complete sin. How dare guys be short? Three, he's a rake. He likes to sleep around, and honestly, people try to make too many comments on your own personal life, too much, that, moving on. So he's hated for a lot of reasons by a lot of people for character traits that in any other time period, like the modern time period, being charismatic, being flirtatious, knowing how to talk to people, like just being a great person to be around. People would love that, but in his society, that's wrong because he happens to be bisexual, he's too short, and his flirtations and his ability to be charismatic is thought of as rakish. So he's no good, right? He's no good. He's obviously a failure. I also loved how intelligent he was. Not book intelligent and not academic intelligent, but he thought about stuff, and him for Monty, I would think of him as like Captain Kirk, where Captain Kirk is just like this roguish kind of individual who gets in a lot of trouble, who's super flirtatious, who's just like going around doing whatever, causing trouble. But at the end of the day, he is a great person. Like, he's a person you want to hang out with. He's a very charismatic person, and nobody faults Captain Kirk for like going around and being flirtatious, because he's a super amazing. So like, what are like one or two faults when like the person overall is just like super amazing? So Monty was my favorite character because I really loved him. I really did, and I felt really bad that so many great traits about him were thought of as him being a bad person, or him being lesser, or him being no good, because he didn't have those classic ones. Like, he wasn't classic Lord, so he couldn't be a good one. Now we're going to talk about Percy. So Percy is Monty's best friend, the best friend that Monty is in love with. Now, he would totally fit into any society, right? Like, he is a very smart person. He is a gentleman. He is a musician. He knows a lot about history and art, and he's just one of those very deep artistic souls. So he should fit in perfectly, right? He should be able to do what he wants and go out in society and be great. But he can't. You want to know why? Because he's black. That's why. Yeah. Because even though he's just as European and just as gentlemanly as any other person, he has a Caribbean black mom. So therefore, he's too dark. And it doesn't really matter that he's a great musician and that he's a true gentleman and that he is the proper gentleman. Like, Monty, who, while I love his roguish behavior and charismatic, he obviously doesn't fall into the traditional gentlemanly thing. But he gets more respect than Percy, who perfectly fits the gentleman's mold. But Percy's black, so he can't be accepted into society. And like, again, any of these traits that he has, the good ones and the supposed bad ones, for any other time period, like time periods today, he would be praised for those things. He would be loved and adored for just being an awesome, amazing person. But because of the time period he lives in, he can't fit in because he's a misfit because of the color of his skin. And the last person is Monty's sister, Felicity. And Felicity is meant to be this lady. Like, she's the daughter of a lord, so she's a lady. She comes from good stock, from good blood. She might be pretty or not. This book doesn't focus on that because, honestly, that's not important. But she is supposed to be this prim, proper example of a lady. However, she doesn't fit in because she's super smart. Like, crazy smart. Like, her IQ is probably 3,000. Like, she is so intelligent. She wants to be a future doctor. She's so well read. She's like Hermione, right? She's like that Hermione character of this book. And she's just such a badass. Like, she's amazing. But all those amazing, smart, ingenious traits about herself, she's not allowed to have, because she's only supposed to be pretty. She's only supposed to want to knit and sew. She's only supposed to want to go to balls and swing around and do all that stupid stuff. But, well, it's not stupid, but do all of that ladylike, sort of society acceptable stuff that she's hated in her own society because she's a really smart girl who wants to be a doctor and wants to be a career woman, and that's a bad thing. Again, why? If she lived in this society, she would fit right in. Like, she would be okay. She would be praised for being super smart and figuring out things and being a complete badass. So, my point is with every single one of these characters, our big three, we see traits in them that they are hated for by their society, which they really shouldn't be, because those things that they're hated for aren't real flaws or faults in their characters or faults in their persons. They are perfectly honest, good things about those people, gifts that anyone would want to have, or at least looking really handsome and black in the case of Percy. Anybody would want to have these gifts, whether it's being roguishly handsome and super charismatic, having gorgeous skin and looking super cute, or being super, super smart. All of those are traits that we all want. But because of the society that they live in, despite all of their other super great talents that could fit into society, they're hated because of the great talents that they have that don't fit into society. The other thing that I really loved about this book, one of my favorite scenes of this book, is the conversation scenes. Like, Monty has a lot of self-confidence issues and things like that, so it's very much about like the conversations between the people. That's why this book is one's about characters, because these characters have conversations with each other. They talk about their disgruntlements, not only with the world around them, not only why they think that they're being treated the most unfairly, but also with each other. So I love those conversations. I like when Felicity goes up to Monty and is like, Monty, I'm a female, like nobody respects me. Or Percy going like, Percy, I'm black, everybody thinks I should be a slave. And then just like Monty reminding people like, everybody thinks just because I'm a rich boy, I don't have any mental issues. And you being constantly reminded, even though like these are really great, awesome people that should have perfect lives, they don't. Because anybody at any situation, no matter who it is, no matter what they're doing, no matter what the outside appearance looks like to you from a distance, that they have the capability of going through a hard time and being treated unfairly just like everyone else. To greater and lesser extents, of course, we're not going to get into that, but still, right? You never know what someone else is going through, so don't try to act like you're the only one who's ever had a hard time. And then another conversation I have is just a conversation of sexuality that goes on, and a particular conversation, spoiler alert, between Felicity and Monty, where Monty's explaining that he's in love with Percy and Felicity's like picking up on this, and she like confronts him about it, and she's just like, I don't understand it, alright? Like, according to me, like, that's a wrong thing, that's not a good thing, and I really can't get behind it. Like, I think you're going to hell for it. But at the same time, she puts that aside and she's like, Monty, at the end of the day, you're my brother and I'm going to love you. I'm going to accept you. Even if I don't agree with you, I will still love you at the end of the day. And I love that conversation so much, because I think it's so easy for us to forget, especially when we hate being treated unfairly, like the LGBT community, that some people aren't trying to be spiteful and mean. They're not trying to damn you. They just don't understand, and that there are people out there who cannot understand what you're doing and not support what you're doing, but still love you at the end of the day and move on past it. Like, they don't need to constantly remind you. And I think that's just something that like we all need to keep back in the back of our head, no matter the situation, that yeah, there's going to be people who don't always understand our life choices or what we're doing in life. But the ones that we need to keep around are those that cannot understand but still love us and get along with us in spite of that. Because not every person who doesn't understand what we're doing and why we're doing it is pure and total garbage, right? Some people just don't understand. So that was one of my favorite moments in this book, was just like that reminder of, yeah, I just can't hate everyone who disagrees with me because they disagree with me. Sometimes I need to understand that if they can be respectful of my beliefs, I can be respectful of theirs. So, a very character-driven book. I like having that conversation. I love when books have emotional conversations between characters and just like delving more into like world issues. I liked having these three characters all be things that the society that they were in didn't really approve of, but those characteristics that the society didn't approve of just made them these great, talented, awesome people that you couldn't just help but be like, really? Why would you hate this kid? Like, they're amazing. Like, they're all great. Like, why are you being bigoted? Because there's no reason to. So I really had a lot of fun. I just really did. I just have a lot of fun talking about things. It's just one of my favorite things, if you can't tell. So if you have read this book, if you have read it and you've seen what I've seen, or you think you might pick this book up because you want to see if what I'm talking about actually exists in the book, comment down below and let me know, what are your thoughts on this? Also, if you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue to see more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, Internet.